Hello, I'm Lugatorix and welcome to my 10,000 subscriber Q&A. I feel like it's a kind of rite of passage to be a YouTuber. You kind of have to do a Q&A at some point, and here we are. The day has finally arrived. And I want to say, of course, thank you very much for helping me get to this milestone. Really great stuff. So we've got lots of questions. I'm going to get straight into it. And in the background, I'm going to have some quick battles playing, randomized, sort of armies and all that. See how well I can do. I think that'll be a pretty interesting thing to have in the background. I just want to say quickly before we get into the questions, I'm actually launching a new channel called Lugo Shorts. It is essentially just going to be a bunch of clips, maybe funny moments from the channel in the past, but also stuff like ultra quick guides, facts that you don't know about, lots of sort of experimental and quicker, sort of more accessible stuff on that channel. I'm going to be posting a lot on there. Please go over and subscribe. The link will be in the description. Okay, so a good place to start would be some general details about me, and a question I get a lot is the name Lugatorix. Where did I get that from and whatever? Well, basically, there's not any sort of special story about it. I just came across the name when playing Rome Total War, and I thought that's the coolest name ever. I like Lugatorix, it sounds good. At the time, I didn't know that it actually meant Mouse King, which actually isn't really the coolest name ever maybe, so that's a bit of a mistake. But it's okay, I'm still happy with the name, and I kind of decided if I ever made a YouTube channel, I would name it Lugatorix, regardless of what the channel was about, but it just so happened to be about Rome Total War. I am in my final year of university. I'm an undergraduate student and I'm studying business, and I'm 21 years old. So how and why did I start playing Total War? Well, it's interesting actually, because I started off watching Total War before playing Total War. Now this was when I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, a few years after Rome Total War came out, probably about 4 years. And the interesting thing was my mum was kind of strict. She strictly said that I could not play any games involving violence or warfare or anything like that. And I used to go round to one of my friend's house quite a lot, and we used to play games on his computer. And one of the games we used to play was this Roman game where you used to try and conquer the whole map. I didn't even know really that it was called Rome Total War. I didn't know a lot about it. But to sort of escape the fact that my mum was kind of strict, there was kind of a loophole where I would watch my friend play, but I didn't actually play myself, so technically I wasn't breaking the rules here. I don't remember a lot of details about it. I remember it was a situation that suited him very well because he got to play the game all day. We used to play as the Red Roman faction, which I now know as the Julii, and that was pretty much it. And actually for a long time I forgot about this game, probably when I was about 9 or 10, we stopped playing that game, we moved on to whatever at that point. And I didn't think about Rome Total War for a long time, and it was up until about 2016, and Many a True Nerd, who was a YouTuber I've been watching for a long time, mostly for his Fallout content, started a series on Rome Total War, which by the way is, in my opinion, the best Total War series on the whole of YouTube. Would very highly recommend it. I have recommended it on this channel before, and I clicked on the video and immediately I saw the opening screen, I heard the music, and suddenly a sort of flood of nostalgia came over me. I was like, oh my god, I remember this game. This was the game I used to play with my friend, and I was watching him play the series, and I got back into it. And yeah, really, it was just sort of by chance that I happened to come back into the game. I think if Many a True Nerd had never made that series, I would have never rediscovered Rome Total War, and I wouldn't be doing this right now today, honestly. Okay, so what other YouTubers do I watch? Actually, I want to take this opportunity to, first of all, quickly just give a shout out to a few of my friends, in particular Ziconia, who is an OG of this channel. If you go back to the very first video, he was the very first comment. You can check that out if you want, and he's got a really great channel. He's been particularly getting back into YouTube recently. His channel has seen a lot of growth. He makes kind of a variety of stuff. He's done a bit of Total War, but he also dabbles in other things like Dragon Ball, basketball, all kinds of things. And I'd really appreciate it if you guys went and showed him some love, because he's a good friend of mine and he is very much a strong ally of the channel. And another ally of the channel, of course, is Melchor. I feel like a lot of you will probably know him already. He is someone who has stuck true to the classical Total Wars as well, which is great. And I believe he also does Twitch as well, so again, his links will be in the description. Go check him out. But in terms of what YouTubers I watch sort of on a regular basis, honestly, I don't watch as much YouTube as I used to. I have, like I said earlier, been a big fan of Many a True Nerd for a long time, starting off with his Fallout content. But also, I have been an OG supporter of Chris Smooth, who probably a lot of you don't know, unless you're into basketball, but basketball YouTuber. He's been around forever, and I've watched, I used to be a big fan of his series back in the day. But in general, I don't know if many of you guys do this. I find a YouTube channel, I obsess over them for a few months, binge watch literally thousands of their videos, and then I just move on to the next channel. And they can be just sort of like random stuff. It doesn't have to be like all one kind of content. I'll just randomly find this channel and get an interest out of nowhere. So yeah, I'll leave a few sort of names in the on the screen right now. See if you recognize any of them. Some of them might be fairly niche channels. But yeah, I mean, these channels at some point in my life, I have sort of binge watched and obsessed over them. Honestly, I don't watch a huge amount of YouTube. Actually, I don't watch a huge amount of Total War content either, really. Okay, what kind of music do I listen to? Well, this question would very much depend on, what point of my life you ask me at. Again, kind of like YouTube, I find a genre of music, I obsess over it for a year or two, and then I move on to the next genre. And actually, it can change kind of wildly from one point to the next. For example, when I was like 15, 16, I went through a heavy metal stage, particularly Iron Maiden I was really obsessed with. And then I kind of moved on to rap music. I was listening to really obscure West Coast rap music that literally is so obscure that it's not even on Spotify. I'm just that sort of emo, edgy person, whatever. And then I kind of moved on to East Coast rap. I love Wu-Tang Clan, and I used to listen to Wu-Tang pretty much that was all I listened to. And then finally, the final progression, about 6 months ago or whatever, I got into K-pop. So yeah, particularly Blackpink, I'm interested in. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of the final progression, I guess. This is an interesting question because actually I was thinking about this recently, and yeah, I would love to do some sort of speedrun. First of all, I don't think I'm talented enough to do a Rome Total War speedrun, but let me know if you guys would be interested in me trying. But I also want to know, like, is there a specific website or a leaderboard? I would be interested in making that if that was the case, or being a part of that. And also, what are the different categories? I mean, for example, I've seen people do speedruns where they do quick battles, but has someone done a speedrun where it's no quick battles allowed, just a full proper campaign? I would be interested in potentially doing this. So yeah, think that is something you might see pretty soon, and let me know more about the speedrunning community in Total War, because I'm not really sure what's going on there, to be honest. Am I interested in Roman history, or history at all for that matter, I guess? Well, honestly, I don't know a huge amount about Roman history. I wish I did, but in terms of Roman history, there's only one book I've ever read. I'm going to find it now quickly. Ah yes, here we go. Okay, so this book I read probably about 3 years ago, a little bit after I started playing Rome Total War. It's called Scipio Africanus Greater Than Napoleon by B.H. Littlehart. It's a pretty good book, I would say. If you want to learn about Scipio Africanus, who, in my opinion, I don't know a lot about this, but in my opinion is the greatest Roman general, undefeated in battle, beat Hannibal at the Battle of Samurai, I think. That's basically all I know. Scipio Africanus is my favourite general, if you were wondering, but he's also one of the only generals I know anything about. In terms of history on a wider scale, I actually did history at A-level, and we learnt a variety of stuff, mostly about Russia, and also Italian unification and stuff like that. So I do have a little bit of knowledge on that. Also Nazi Germany as well, I have a bit of knowledge. But there's no particular era of history where I have a super in-depth knowledge. And actually I know more about Russian and Italian history than I do about Roman history. Let's talk about the Armenia campaign, which I got a lot of questions about. And guess what? I have actually finished the Armenia campaign. I have recorded it all, finished it, it is done. It is going to be not in exactly the format you expect it to be, maybe, but it will be there. I think if it's going to be anywhere, it's more likely to be uploaded on my new second channel, Lugo Shorts. So you might have to be a little bit patient though, because it's going to take a huge amount of editing. Damn, okay, this is the important question. Celebrity crush. Well, I did mention that I like Blackpink earlier. I'm kind of obsessed with all 4 of them, to be honest. I'd happily have any of them as my celebrity crush. If I have to choose a member, though, I'm going to go with Jennie. I don't really know why. I think Lisa is more my type, and I also really like Jisoo. I think she's underrated as hell, but there's just something about Jennie. I'm going to choose her. Okay, so I got a lot of questions about the newer Total War games, am I ever going to play them, what do I think about them, and all this. And here's the thing, obviously I'm kind of well known for just sticking to the classics, and that's really what I'm comfortable doing, that's what I like doing. Here's the thing, I don't actually have a huge amount to say about the newer Total War games. I'm going to be honest, I've never played Rome 2, I've never played any of the Warhammer games, I've never played, what's the new one, Troy? I didn't even know what was going on. Like, apparently there's a new Warhammer game coming out. I had no idea until I saw Melchor's video. Like, this stuff I just don't really know about. And that's kind of the crux of the whole thing about why I've never played it. First of all, I just love Rome Total War. I love the simplicity of it. I think it's such a beautiful game. And the fact is, many people cover Warhammer, Rome 2, whatever. I don't feel like I'm really needed in that respect. What I am needed for, and what my audience wants me to do, I think in the most part, is to cover the classics. And it's the game I enjoy playing. So I don't have much comments about Rome 2. I heard that it was a complete disaster on launch, but basically all I know about the modern Total Wars is just sort of what I've heard from the community, as opposed to actually any experience of me playing it. So I can't turn around and say they're bad games, they're good games or whatever. I just quite simply don't know enough about it. I also wanted to include this comment by Arten K, and I feel like this perfectly sort of encapsulates what I feel about the early Total War games, particularly Rome. There's something just sort of beautifully simplistic about it. It's a really beautiful game. I don't care that the graphics don't hold up to modern standards. For me, I still think it's beautiful in its sort of own distinct way. And talking of other games, a lot of people ask me what other games do I play, including top 10 lists. Now the difficulty with a top 10 list is there probably aren't 10 other games that I've played in my life. The first console or sort of gaming thing I ever had was an original DS, Nintendo DS. The first iteration of the DS. It actually had a Game Boy like sort of port in it, so you could play Game Boy Advance games in as well. Really awesome stuff, and I still have that DS. And my favourite game on that was definitely Mario Kart DS. That is, I've played Mario Kart Wii, but Mario Kart DS is the game that I know most and I've sort of loved the most, and still occasionally I'll pick up my DS and play a bit of Mario Kart DS. I think it's a great game. In terms of sort of like Xbox games and all that, which is when I really started to sort of do gaming on a sort of regular basis, the main series I played a lot was the NBA 2K series. Now I haven't got an NBA 2K game in like 3 or 4 years because I don't like NBA 2K nowadays. I think that, you know, they've just ruined the game, whatever. But for me, NBA 2K16 was the absolute peak. You know, I used to play My Park with my friends all the time. I remember the summer of 2017, we used to play that all the time. Really great thing, you know, I loved NBA 2K16, absolute classic. Other games I've played, I have mentioned that I like the Fallout series before. I think that Fallout New Vegas is the best Fallout game, but the one I enjoy playing most, honestly, is Fallout 4. But really, yeah, I mean, I don't really do that much gaming nowadays, to be honest. I haven't touched my Xbox in a long, long time. Rome Total War, pretty much I only play for YouTube. I don't actually play Rome Total War outside of making YouTube videos because I consider that a waste of time. You know, if I'm going to be making Total War, I might as well be commentating over it as well. Oh, and also, I can't believe I forgot this, but also I used to be obsessed with Football Manager, particularly Football Manager 2016. We will not discuss how many hours I have in that game. I am utterly ashamed of how many hours I have played on Football Manager 2016. In fact, there's a question about that later, so just keep watching to find out. But yeah, Football Manager 2016 is most certainly the game I've played most of in my life, which is just weird to think about, I guess. Okay, so would I rather a remaster of the classic Total War game, so for example Rome Total War 3 or Medieval 3, or would I rather a new Total War game? Honestly, I would like a new Total War game because I feel like, again, what I've been saying this whole video, Rome Total War is a timeless classic and so is Medieval 2, and for me, I don't think that if they made, was it Creative Assembly? If Creative Assembly made a remaster of those games, I don't think they would actually make the improvements that the fans want to see, which is basically, I guess, just the pathfinding. That's the only thing I really care about. I would like maybe diplomacy to be a little bit more in depth. I feel like, yeah, just leave a good thing in the past. For me, you know, it's better just to move on, maybe try and innovate and do new things, new periods of history or whatever. It's like when you get a classic movie. I hate it when they, in most cases, I hate it when they remaster a classic movie. For example, I remember a remaster of Ben-Hur came out a few years ago, and I'm a big fan of Ben-Hur. In fact, I quite like my Roman movies. Ben-Hur, I watched Spartacus, Gladiator's a good movie. But anyway, yeah, a remastered version of Ben-Hur came out, and it's just, yeah, you could remake them and make them super HD with special effects or whatever, but actually that's not going to improve the movie. What is so special about the movie is the sort of timeless classic nostalgia that you just cannot replicate, and that's exactly how I feel about Rome Total War. And leading on to that question, what period would I like for a new game? I thought about this question for a while, and one didn't immediately come to mind. Again, I'm not amazingly sort of knowledgeable about history. I feel like World War II would be interesting, and I think maybe a possible criticism I have of Rome Total War actually is that the factions don't feel big and powerful enough at the beginning of the game in particular, and this is something which I think was improved on in Medieval 2 actually. But in Rome, for example, let's say you start off as Scythia and you're next door to the Thracians. I remember in my Scythia campaign, I destroyed the Thracians in 4 turns or something. They have 2 settlements, they have, like 3 armies or whatever. It's a really small faction, and actually, they're just a little bit of an annoyance in the early game. You can just sort of sweep them under the rug pretty quickly and eliminate them. And actually, I want, when I attack a faction, to be a big deal. Like, I am declaring war on an empire, and actually there's going to be a sort of long, slogging match of a war. A lot of it is just sort of taking settlements quickly in a sneaky way, quite often taking the settlements that are not garrisoned for some reason because the AI has decided not to protect its most important settlements. And often it doesn't feel like you're declaring war on an empire, but just sort of a couple of settlements that aren't going to really fight back. And I feel like that was a little bit improved on in Medieval 2. For example, if you're fighting the French in particular, or maybe the Holy Roman Empire, to start off with a decent amount of settlements, it really feels like you're going to war with an empire rather than just a couple of allied settlements, which is basically what Rome Total War feels like. So anyway, I diverted a little bit, but I feel like in a sort of wider scale World War II Total War, that could be very interesting because, for example, the Nazis are going to own a lot of settlements in the beginning of the game, right? They're going to own a lot of Central and Northern Europe, and it's not going to be a matter of just sort of taking them down. Maybe having less factions would be an interesting thing, because it feels like each individual faction would be a lot bigger, a lot more powerful, but it would be interesting. Or maybe something like just a simple one-on-one. For example, the American Civil War, although I think that could be a bit controversial. I can't imagine anyone particularly wanting to play as the Confederates. I hope not anyway. Am I interested in football? Honestly, not particularly nowadays. I used to enjoy football a lot. In fact, I used to be obsessed with football. I used to support West Ham United. The only reason I supported them was because my uncle, who did support them, one day turned around and said he would disown me if I didn't, and I didn't fancy that, so yeah. And I kind of lost interest in football around sort of 2013, 2014, where I discovered basketball, and basketball just replaced football. I now follow the NBA. Again, actually not a huge amount. I would never stay up for games or anything like that, really, unless it's the playoffs, I guess. But I do quite like the NBA, certainly more than football. I have no idea. I couldn't even name 3 West Ham players on the team now. But the NBA I know quite a lot about, and I do enjoy. I support Minnesota Timberwolves, which is depressing. If you know anything about NBA, you'll know that's just a bad choice on my part. Okay, so how and why did I start YouTube? So I started YouTube, I think, I was in my final year of 6th form, which is kind of like high school for you people not in the UK. So I think I was like 17, 18 when I started it off, about 3 or 4 years ago. And I'd wanted to do YouTube for a little while, I think. I had a few friends that did YouTube, and I'll be honest, it was kind of, I guess, a little bit of a matter of being competitive. I can be fairly competitive sometimes, and I kind of always wondered, if I did YouTube, how would I do? How would I compare to them? But I didn't know really what I wanted to do. Now, like I said earlier, I was getting into Total War. I'd watched many a True Nerd series, and I'd been playing Rome Total War a lot. But none of my friends in real life were interested in Total War, so I couldn't go on talking about the Thracians or my conquests in Spain or whatever. They'd be bored to hell. And I wanted people to talk about Rome Total War too. So I thought, okay, I'll make a Rome Total War channel. And I did exactly what I would do normally, which is start a campaign on Rome Total War, but I talked into the camera, and I thought, well, you know what, it's an opportunity at the very least to just sort of let off some steam, talk about something which I'm passionate about, and hey, if nobody's listening, it doesn't really matter, at least I'm talking about Rome Total War finally. And that was kind of it, really. I didn't have many expectations. I didn't think I'd ever earn any money off of it, for example. I kind of just did it for the enjoyment, and yeah, that's basically the story of how I started YouTube. Okay, so controversial question here. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no? Now the thing is, the controversial answer would be yes. That's most people would say that's a controversial answer, and if you say yes to pineapple on pizza, you will be hounded at. You'll be pushed off the streets in shame. Hang your head down low towards the gravel. You dirty person. You like pineapple on pizza? What is this? But I have an even more controversial answer, which is that I don't really care about pineapple on pizza. I don't care yes or no. I don't eat pizza, really, ever. And the reason I don't eat pizza is because I don't eat cheese. I haven't eaten cheese at all since I was like 4 or 5. I have a really big aversion to it. And, really like the smell of cheese, particularly macaroni cheese. Oh my lord. Macaroni cheese makes me feel sick whenever I'm anywhere near it. If I'm in a 50-mile radius of cheese, I just suddenly start to feel ill. I remember one time I was in elementary school and a kid threw cheese at me, and I was so upset that I just called the nurses and demanded to go home because I was like crying. I didn't even eat any of the cheese, but I just came into contact with cheese and I had a complete mental breakdown. But anyway, yeah, I don't eat cheese, and the few occasions I do eat pizza, I eat pizza without cheese, which is probably far more controversial than eating pizza with pineapple. So yeah, basically in summary, pineapple on pizza, yes, I guess I would eat pineapple on pizza. I don't really care either way. But actually, I'll only eat pizza if it doesn't have cheese on. So yeah, I know, probably dislikes coming in already, I know. So how do me and Melchor know each other? Are we friends? Well, yeah, I mean, me and Melchor have known each other for a while now, at least 2 years, probably more like 3 years. I remember when I first encountered his channel, he was at probably 400 subscribers. I was probably at 300, so we were a fairly similarly sized channel, doing similar but different content. Obviously, I mentioned earlier that he does content on the classic Rome Total War games, and, you know, obviously I was sort of checking out, I guess, the competition. I was checking out who else was doing stuff similar to me on the classic games. And Melchor, I feel like just a lot of people know nowadays. You know, his channel has really done well, particularly in the last year or two. He's been far more consistent than me. He's been, you know, working really, really hard, and he's at, you know, over 20k subscribers now, so he's doing great stuff there. And yeah, I mean, I would consider him a friend. I would consider him an ally of the channel, most certainly. But me and Melchor haven't really talked a huge amount, to be honest. I remember we talked once on Steam, just a while back randomly, and yeah, we're certainly allies. I would like to collaborate with him at some point, you know, I'm sure that's something we could do. If I could wear any colour for the rest of my life, but it has to be one of the 3 Roman colours in Rome Total War, which would I wear? Well, my favourite Roman faction is the Scipii, but the thing is, I don't wear a lot of blue in real life. I guess it's just because I think a lot of boys wear blue, and I kind of like to be a little bit different. Actually, the colour I wear most in real life is black, but unfortunately that's not an option here. I think, you see, green is a really difficult colour to wear. So I guess that leaves red, the Julii, which was the first faction I played on Rome Total War with my friend all those years ago. And I wear a bit of red. I think red is a good colour. So yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. Tips for getting better at Total War, particularly Rome Total War. Well, this is interesting. I would say watching my channel is probably the best tip you're ever going to get, because, you know, I give lots of advice and I show you what not to do, which is just as important as anything else. But in all seriousness, I would say that probably the number one thing for Rome Total War is don't be too passive. That's one of the main mistakes I used to make, was being afraid to attack factions, being afraid to take a settlement. And the thing is, you need to take settlements. And I think this is advice that Legend of Total War definitely lives by and has said before. I remember in his videos he has said this, that it's just important to be aggressive and actually attack. Because first of all, it's going to help your economy a huge amount. How do you make money? You make money by taking settlements, gaining taxpayers, you know, looting settlements and taking their assets and turning it into your money. You're not going to make any more money by just sitting on the 2 or 3 settlements you have and still paying wages for your armies who are effectively doing nothing. You're just burning cash. I think definitely that would be my number one piece of advice, is after, of course, watching my channel, would be to just be aggressive, gain settlements. Don't fight too much in the open field, because if you beat an army on the open field, for example, and you don't take a settlement from it, you've not really gained a huge amount. Yes, sure, they're going to be damaged for a little bit, they're going to lose some units, but they're going to recruit those units again pretty quickly, and you're going to be facing them again pretty quickly. So really what you want to do is actually take settlements. That's the important thing. What are my future goals in real life and on YouTube? Well, in terms of real life, I'm the worst person to ask on this matter, because I am incredibly indecisive on that matter, and also I just really don't know, quite honestly. I'm always the kind of person, I don't like to plan too much ahead, particularly because when I do plan, it always tends to go wrong. So I've kind of reached the point in my life where I'm just going to try and enjoy myself, do whatever I feel is right at the moment for me, and it'll all work out in the end. So really, yeah, I mean, in terms of future goals, I don't know, travel, I guess, is something I'd like to do. But otherwise, yeah, I do graduate this year, and I don't know exactly what I want to do at the end of it. So maybe you'll find out in the future. I'll update you when that time comes. In terms of YouTube, like I kind of said already, you know, just sort of making content that's more creative, stuff that I really enjoy, diversifying the content, and also consistency. That's got to be important, finally. I mean, I was very consistent in my first year or two of doing YouTube, but once I sort of got into university, then the alcohol kicked in, then the partying kicked in, and yeah, YouTube kind of got sidelined a little bit, but no more. I'm going to be working hard, okay? Now, something I get a question on a lot, of course, is about mods and stuff. Now, I am open to the idea of trying mods, okay? I am open to the idea, but honestly, I'm not crazy about mods, but there are certainly some amazing mods out there. Really, really creative mods. Huge amounts of efforts have been put into them, and I would like to try them out. The only mod that I've actually ever tried in sort of like personally, I think properly, has been Europa Barbarorum, which again I haven't played a huge amount of. I remember I played a campaign. Is Dacia a faction? It's the Central European Brown faction. I don't know if it's Dacia, but I played a bit of them one time, and that's a fantastic mod, I think, because it expands the map, adds loads of settlements, and that actually fixes the problem I had with Rome Total War I expressed earlier about factions not feeling big enough, not feeling like you're going to war against an empire. Europa Barbarorum really does fix that, I think. So actually that's a really good mod, but I would be open to the idea, but I'm not crazy about mods, I'm going to be honest. If I could talk to the original developers of Rome Total War, what would I want them to change? I guess I haven't got anything huge to say, really. I'm not a particularly influential or knowledgeable person on Total War, but I'd probably ask them stuff like why. I'd be more interested in the features that were got rid of on Rome Total War rather than the series that the things that should be added. They got rid of the camera angle where you could follow the arrows. They got rid of the fact that you can look into cities when not on the battlefield and actually just see what Rome looked like. Stuff like that was really, really interesting, and for some reason they got rid of it, and it's the cute little sort of interesting details, the cute little quirks like that which I really miss from Rome Total War. You know, I would applaud them for making a really good game and say, can you do it again, please? So, video game stories. Now, this is interesting, and I was thinking about this for a little while, and I think really the only thing that comes to mind is Football Manager 2016, which I mentioned very briefly earlier is the most played game I've ever had, more than Total War, most certainly. And the interesting thing about Football Manager 2016 is it helped me with my exams. I did my GCSEs, which is, I don't know how to describe it for the American audience or whatever, but it's the exams you take when you're 16. My 16 plus exams were helped a huge amount by Football Manager, and for most people that game ruins their life because they become obsessed with it and they can't do any work, but actually it helped me. And the reason was I had no motivation really to sit down and revise, and the only way I could motivate me to sit down and revise was by playing Football Manager. And it's the perfect game to do this. I would not recommend this, by the way, but in a way it's kind of the perfect game if you can do it properly. Because basically, if you don't know much about Football Manager, you just click the team you want to use or whatever, you do a few clicks, blah blah blah, and then you just click the button to start the match, and it's a simulation. The game just plays itself for you. And really, unless you want to make the odd substitute or whatever, most of the time it's just watching the screen, letting the match happen on in the background, and just sort of waiting for the next match to happen. And that's perfect if you want to revise. I used to sit down, I used to have my books, I used to press start match, then I would do revising. The match would last, let's say, 10 minutes. I would do 10 minutes solid revision, look up, see, okay, we've lost 5-0 again or whatever, and then I would do a few clicks, start the next match and go. And I remember it hugely helped me because it was the only way I could properly sit down. And actually I did quite well in my GCSEs because I really revised hard because I was playing so much Football Manager. Okay, we're getting near to the end of the video now, and I'm getting conscious of the fact that the video is getting a little bit too long. So we're going to do some quick fire questions now because I want to include as many as I can. So let's go. My favourite faction is Scythia. Really, really fun faction. I love the fact that they are bright orange, and they're just a faction in which you can just sit back, relax, not worry too much because you can just spam horse archers, overpowered as hell, and yeah, love Scythia. Do I play MOBA or RTS games? Honestly, I had to look up what MOBA and RTS games even are because I was not familiar with that terminology before, and I don't believe I've played any. They look interesting, particularly the idea of real-time strategy looks interesting, but I've played... Does Worms at War count? I mean, I remember there was one I used to play with the same friend actually that I played Rome Total War with, and we used to play this. I think it's called Worms at War. I can't remember now. It's these little worms that are firing like grenades or rocket launchers at each other. But there was a 3D version that I used to play, and I don't know. I'll try and find it and put it up on screen now. But if that's an RTS game, then I've played that many years ago. But otherwise, no, sorry, I haven't. Am I part of a clan or have any old stories? Honestly, I've never really played multiplayer much on Rome Total War. I didn't even know there were clans. I wish I was around for those days. I would have loved to been part of a clan. If there is anything like that nowadays, that would be cool. I'd be down for that. But no, I don't know anything about the clan, sadly. But it sounds really cool, so I wish I'd been a part of that. And the final question is, how many hours do I have on Rome Total War? I actually have 511 hours played. And yeah, I may have just broken 2,000 hours on Football Manager, but we won't talk about that. And yeah, that has been the video. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you very much for the questions. I hope I answered them okay. And if you missed, for example, asking a question or whatever, and you want to ask one in the comments, make sure to do that. You know, I'll try and answer as many as I can in the comments. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed also the background battles. I don't know, I haven't played them yet, but I'm sure I probably lost most of them knowing me. And make sure, don't forget to subscribe to QnA, and also of course the Lugo Shorts, which is the new channel which I'm hopefully going to get off the ground. Lots of content coming soon. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll be back with more videos very, very soon, and I'll see you around.